Our hope with the Dusty Feet is to foster discussion and to help build and support communities. If you're not already connected to a community or just want to share and interact, this community has 4 primary ways to interact. 1. TheDustyFeet.com. That's our primary place to find everything. You are always free to comment. 2. Substack. Link is in the description below. It's designed around the written and spoken text. It's a place to connect to ourselves and others. 3. Facebook at The Dusty Feet. These videos and other videos are also available for comment and discussion. 4. And as always, you're welcome to send an email to bob@thedustyfeet.com. These places, they will be moderated and guidelines will be set to ensure healthy, safe discussion. And as always on The Dusty Feet, this is a place where we can safely explore the endless ways of God and the interconnection of His creation. Belief understandings may be challenged, divine misunderstandings may exist, and traditional teachings might falter as we pursue connection, context, and community with God and each other here in an environment of grace and love. Oh, and of course, before we forget, if you find these podcasts useful, please click that subscribe button. But the reminders, they just help you. But also, if you think these might be useful to others, that is due when you click that like button, because it is how YouTube chooses to share these to more people if they wish. So in this series, we're going to cover the entire TaNaK, right? The Old Testament. We're doing the original order of the Hebrew Scriptures. Just remember, the videos we discuss, they're always just the tip of an iceberg. They're part of an entire learning series I highly recommend, and of course all of them can be found on the Bible Project. Because we're going to ask many questions about all kinds of things. Answers? We'll see. 2 Samuel, second scroll, part 19. So the usurper's been defeated. We won, right? Well, at least in the eyes of the supporters of King David. David's response? Well, ponder joy in victory. Then turn your head. Look as far away as you possibly can from that. And then in the distance, you're going to see the heart of David. Because there's that song. I mentioned it last week. Link to that is in the description below. I suggest you give it a full listen, right? But I still want you to hear just a bit. 18 chords, 55 seconds. Because I do believe it captures David's distress, the loss of the usurper, yet still his son Absalom. But I want to set it up with these verses. Chapter 18 starts in verse 31. Behold, the Cushite arrived, and the Cushite said, Let my lord the king receive good news, for the Lord has freed you this day from the hand of all those who rose up against you. And the king said to the Cushite, Is it well with the young man Absalom? The Cushite answered, Let the enemies of my lord the king and all those who rise up against you for evil be as that young man. The king was deeply moved, and he went up to the chamber that was over the gate, and he wept, and thus he said as he walked, O my son Absalom, my son Absalom, would I have died instead of you, O Absalom, my son. I heard it. I hope you had the chance to. I thought Eric Whitaker, I think he captured it. So David's in grief. And it's real. And in my opinion, it's not unreasonable grief. Yet it's not in a vacuum. Because yes, his son is dead. But let's remember the scene we're in. We've also mentioned it. He was the usurper. So Joab, well, he comes to David with a rather stark and stern message. One David probably needed to hear, because there are more people affected here, and for differing reasons, just for the same event. Chapter 19 starts in verse 1. Then it was told Joab, behold, the king is weeping, mourns for Absalom. And victory that day was turned to mourning for all the people. For the people heard it said that day, the king is grieved over his son. So the people went by stealth into the city that day, as people who are humiliated steal away when they flee in battle. The king covered his face, cried out aloud with a voice, "O my son Absalom, O Absalom, my son, my son." Then Joab came into the house to the king and said, "Today you have covered with shame the faces of all your servants, who today have saved your life, and the lives of your sons and daughters, the lives of your wives, the lives of your concubines, by loving those who hate you, and by hating those who love you, for you have shown today that princes and servants are nothing to you. For I know this day that if Absalom were alive, and all of us were dead today, then you would be pleased. Now, therefore, arise, go out, speak kindly to your servants. For I swear by the Lord, if you do not go out, surely not a man will pass the night with you. This will be worse for you than all the evil that has come upon you from your youth until now." So the king arose, and he sat in the gate. And they told all the people, "Behold, the king is sitting in the gate." Then all the people came before the king. Now Israel, they'd fled, each to his own tent. It's not the end of the story. It's a page turn for the rest of the story. Because David still had his own personal reflections. Because remember, David lost the child from Bathsheba. Absalom killed David's firstborn son for abusing his sister, David's first daughter, Absalom's sister, right? And now, the death of his third child. 3 children dead. How would you be? We do wear other sandals here, so I think those are real thoughts to consider. But the land, the people, the groups we often refer to as Judah and Israel, remember, this is a backward description in context, but this group, they're still far from together, even with the usurper dead. The damage over the years by Absalom, it's going to have its way. They are not unified. They are far from it. We're going to see that unfold in far too short a time, but first there'll be some settling of affairs. Forgiveness to be given. Start in chapter 19, verse 9. And all the people were quarreling throughout the tribes of Israel, saying, "The king delivered us from the hand of our enemies, saved us from the hand of the Philistines, but now he's fled out of the land from Absalom. However, Absalom, who we anointed over us, he's died in battle. Now then, why are you silent about bringing the king back?" Then King David sent to Zadok and to Abiathar the priests, saying, "Speak to the elders of Judah, saying, why are you the last to bring the king back to his house? Since the word of all Israel has come to the king, even to his house. Because you are my brothers, you are my bone and my flesh. Why then would you be the last to bring back the king? And say to Amasa, are you not my bone and flesh? May God do so to me, and more also, if you will not be commander of the army before me continually in place of Joab. Thus he turned the hearts of all the men of Judah as one man, so that they sent word to the king, saying, return, you and all your servants. And the king then returned and came as far as the Jordan. And Judah came to Gilgal in order to meet the king and to bring the king across the Jordan. So remember, kingdom's far from unified, right? Because those tribes that form, for the most part, Israel, well, they flee back to their own tents. So David will need to do the best battle damage recovery that he can, yeah? Because there were also some non-Israelite people groups, often tagged by the king or leader who was over them, whatever city they were in. So maybe in a sense, a way we might be able to give some of the analogy to help us view this piece, right? So think of the kings as like governors, maybe the leaders as at least very powerful mayors of these cities. Because these kings and these leaders, right, they're still subservient to the king. And in this case, of course, it's King David, because a coup has been attempted and it failed. And then those participating in it, one way or another, right, either by action or by inaction, well, they're going to need to be dealt with in one way, shape, or form. But in this part of the tale, David goes the way of pardons. The various leaders will soon be aware of David, right? They know what happens. They're very aware of the possible consequences. But these men listed, these little stories, I actually appreciate them. They know what's on the line. And still, instead of fleeing, they choose to come to David. Because the end of chapter 19, right, it has the various interactions, the pardons that David has with these leaders. It's great. Take a read. But there's a verse that kind of encapsulates David's thoughts to me, right? And it's chapter 19, verse 22. David then said, what have I to do with you, O sons of Zeruiah, that you should this day be an adversary to me? Should any man be put to death in Israel today? For do not I know that I am king over Israel today? David is set on reconciliation. And he's also pretty confident that God still has him as the rightful king of the land. But these are decisions that kings make. Because it's only in hindsight that the king's choices can be viewed through any lens of success or failure. But in this moment, it reflects the heart of David. But as we get to the end of chapter 19, we're going to see, well, call them cracks in the walls. It's fascinated me from the beginning that even with the land as the promised land of God, we still see fractures and cracks that, again, only in hindsight, will only worsen with a full-fledged civil war along the lines of Judah and Israel. But that's coming. But this interaction at the end of chapter 19, well, it's going to show just how severe those cracks, well, how they're becoming. 2 Samuel 19 starts in verse 39. And all the people crossed over the Jordan, and the king crossed too. And the king then kissed Barzillai and blessed him, and he returned to his place. Now the king went on to Gilgal and to Chimham, and Chimham went on with him, and all the people of Judah, and half the people of Israel, they accompanied the king. And behold, all the men of Israel came to the king and said to the king, "Why had our brothers, the men of Judah, stolen you away, and brought the king and his household and all of David's men with him over the Jordan?" Then all the men of Judah answered the men of Israel, "Well, because the king is a close relative of us. Why then are you angry about this? Have we eaten all at the king's expense? Or has anything been taken from us?" But the men of Israel answered the men of Judah, and they said, "We have 10 parts in the king. Therefore, we also have more claim on David than you. Why did you treat us with contempt? Was it not our advice first to bring back our king?" Yet the words of Judah were harsher than the words of the men of Israel. It's a mess. And as we get to the last 5 chapters in this second scroll of Samuel, we're going to see more rebellion, a famine, setting right or wrong, more war with the Philistines. Nope, they're far from gone. We're going to hear a song. Last words? A recounting of men of valor. A census. David paying for another sin, and David seeking to reconcile and intercede. Spoiler alert, God listens. So until next week, thanks for being with us tonight on another episode of Outside the Class as we explore this second scroll of Samuel on the Dusty Feet.